Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. The most powerful ancestral god school? Luofeng was a bit confused. Even though he knew nothing about this school, token of beast god inheritance appealed to him. He reached out. Let me see. Use your godly power penetration, Skywolf said, watching Luofeng. As for the token, I'll keep it until there's a deal, and you may use your power to probe it. You're too careful. Luofeng glanced at Skywolf. Humans are cunning, Skywolf urged him. Just go check if you want it. Luofeng looked at the hexagonal stone and injected an invisible spiritual force into it. The moment the force hit the stone, Luofeng felt like he was entering an ancient world. When I'm going to the land of inheritance with the token, I can receive inheritance from beast god if I'm qualified. The coordinates are. Luofeng collected the information, which described the stone as the token of soil and space merging law. Luofeng was a little disappointed, as he was practicing the merging law of gold and space. Have you seen it? Skywolf asked Luofeng. Make your decision. Let me think about it, Luofeng answered. No need to rush. I've waited long enough to be patient. Skywolf stared at Luofeng. Luofeng stood there, frowning, whilst connecting to the virtual universe. The virtual universe, inside the room of Luofeng's manor. Luofeng started to look up the necessary information on the laptop. He started by searching for the information of the school mentioned by Skywolf. Ancestral God School. Luofeng's access authority was updated after he successfully got out of sector-level Primal Sky Mountain. Luofeng said, his spirits brightened a bit as he started to read the information on the screen. Token of Beast God's Inheritance. Ancestral God School was the most powerful organization in the universe. It was as old as the universe, and the highest level belonged to the legendary 3 ancestral gods. 3 ancestral gods, 8 beast god, 72 holy deified generals, and 3,000 prophets. There was a fixed number for each position. Although there could be candidates, each beast god position could only be filled by one. Unless the original beast god fell, there wouldn't be a new beast god, and the same rule applied to deified generals and prophets. There were 3 forms of inheritance in Ancestral God School. The first was inheritance of prophets, the second was inheritance of deified generals, and the third was inheritance of beast god. Inheritance of beast god was the highest level of inheritance, with each of the 8 beast gods being a master of the universe. Hundreds of millions of races had followed the path of the beast god, and some of them had even received its inheritance and successfully trained themselves to reach the beast god's level. However, they still couldn't become a beast god unless the beast god they were following fell. Once one became the real beast god, its power would surge. That was why there was a fixed number for each position. Ancestral God School was open, and it neither participated in the battle for power nor needed a large territory, as there were only some 3,000 members in it. It was open to all the powerful creatures in the universe, and the inheritances they had were distributed across the universe to make sure they would be received by the right one. However, neither those who received the inheritances nor those who excelled at following the inheritances belonged to Ancestral God School, only the one who inherited the position. Ancestral God School didn't meddle in any wars. Other than the holy ancestral gods, only the beast gods, the deified generals, and the prophets were among all the races in the universe. Beast gods were the strongest, followed by deified generals and prophets. The inheritance crystals of prophets floated randomly in the universe and collected by one powerful one after another. However, the lands of deified general inheritance were fixed in a particular area. As for the lands of beast god inheritance, they were under Ancestral God School's control, and one must show the token to enter the land. There were 8 tokens: golden and space, wood and space, soil and space, light and time, wind and time, and thunder and time. 8 merging laws represented the 8 paths of beast gods. There was a rule for humans that if powerful humans managed to find the token, they could keep it for themselves. If they found it to be useless, they could hand it in, and they would be rewarded treasures as valuable as the token. Sometimes, they might get another token. Luofeng was amazed after reading all this information. He realized how supreme Ancestral God School was and how small the number of members was. 3 ancestral gods and 8 beast gods, Luofeng said. How powerful are ancestral gods? I reckon they're as powerful as Teacher Mountain Sitting Gues. Only because of that could the Ancestral God School be the most powerful organization in the universe. Elite strategy. Ancestral God School followed the elite strategy. It didn't have an abundant number of members, but it surpassed the 6 peaks. I can trade this token for the token that suits me, Luo Feng realized aloud. He was expecting something more. Skywolf, today is your unlucky day. Ice Hell, inside the palace of Skywolf. Skywolf stared at Luo Feng. You've made up your mind? Skywolf said. Luo Feng nodded. Yes. Good. Now, do we have a deal or not? Skywolf said it more aggressively because it had a strong desire to go back to his clan. It was now an invincible emperor, where it was still lagging behind others at the same level, which stemmed from the lack of treasures. He was powerful enough, and all he needed were a couple of suitable treasures after which he could sharply improve his fighting and defending abilities. Luo Feng looked at Skywolf. Deal, he said. Smart choice. Skywolf laughed and said, Human, give me the anonymous account sensor first. I need to check it. Luo Feng frowned. Let's exchange our goods at the same time. Haha. Are you kidding me? Skywolf said. If I give the token to you directly, you can run out in no time and take away the access authority. Then how am I supposed to know whether or not you're telling the truth? Luo Feng glanced at it and started to contemplate. Skywolf was really sneaky, and he didn't know whether he would be tricked or not. Makes sense. Luo Feng threw out a quantum computer. A godly force caught the quantum computer. Filled with excitement, Skywolf stared at the quantum computer. While he was detained in Ice Hell, he was only mediocre, but now he was an invincible emperor, which would make his clan value him significantly more. Once he managed to get back, he would be specially trained by his clan, and he might become a universe knight. And based on his power, he wouldn't be an average knight. Do as I said, Skywolf growled. A figure came into view. It was a prepossessed, 9-meter-tall female with a great body and 6 wings. Yes, master, the female servant answered with respect and took the quantum computer. The female servant connected to the virtual universe. Skywolf looked at her with a thrill while glimpsing at Luo Feng a couple of times. He was watching the scene in silence and monitoring everything in his virtual universe. He had high access authority and was one of the highest levels in the human race. He had reached this level by being the student of the Castellan and one of the top talents. In reality, Luo Feng had constructed a local area network for that anonymous account, which meant he was the only one who used the account all along. For instance, there were lots of players of virtual games, and there were quite a few people drinking in the bar. However, these were all simulated. Even Luo Feng couldn't tell that it was fake. Do whatever you want to do, including sending the message, Luo Feng muttered under his breath. Unfortunately, you're currently in private virtual network, and it's been cut off from the entire virtual universe. The female servant entered the game. Luo Feng was monitoring everything. It was the number 3 game, which dated back to 30,000 years ago. It was completely normal for a well-functioning game to be operated for more than 100 million years, given that human history had started zillions of years ago and some games were extremely popular. The game could be maintained as long as there were profits. The female servant publicized the bounty mission. Luo Feng noticed that the servant started by transferring a small amount of money from an anonymous account of the first bank of the universe to herself, after which she released a bounty mission to the entire game. She logged off after staying there for a while. Inside the palace, Skywolf watched his servant. Finally, she said, Master, there was no response. Human. Skywolf roared, becoming furious. You're playing me. Luo Feng looked up at the enormous Skywolf and grumbled. Yes, I was playing you. But you were playing me as well. How did I play you? Skywolf roared. I was exactly following the deal, which says I can test whether it's authentic or not. And you say I am playing you? Do you really think I'm so stupid that I would allow you to connect to the virtual universe without the token? I still have a brain. Luo Feng smirked. I bet you were trying to send the message to the demon race as a means of testing. Skywolf was dazed. Publicizing a bounty mission in a virtual game with countless players is indeed a smart move, Luo Feng said coyly. There might be some spies among the players, and there's no way for the system of the virtual universe to know who the spies are. Humph. You can send your message by this easily. Luo Feng looked at Skywolf with a baffling look. If you had succeeded, my scanner would have meant nothing to you, and you would have achieved your goal. However, you would still have the inheritance token. Do you think you would really give it to me at that point? I always keep my promises, Skywolf answered in a hoarse voice. Nonsense, Luo Feng sniggered. I would be a joke if I believed the promise of an enemy race. Skywolf was stupefied and hesitant. Tell me, Skywolf, how can I trust you? Luo Feng said, studying him. Skywolf kept staring at the human in front of it. Skywolf, as a member of the royal demon race, was ruthless and cunning, and was the one in Ice Hell that perfectly manifested such characteristics. What was more, he was proficient in disguising himself. Still, even though he always acted kindly during the time he had been detained in Ice Hell, he did occasionally reveal his true self. He was, indeed, luring the human with his token and trying to send the message in the name of testing. Once he got a response, it would mean the message was received, and it wouldn't matter even if the human took away the access authority. By then, he wouldn't have to give the human the inheritance token. What do you have in mind? Skywolf said in a low voice. Since we've played all our cards, let's be honest with each other from now on, Luo Feng said, carefully watching Skywolf. There's only one rule. You give me the token first, before I give you the scanner. No. Skywolf roared. What if you take the token and run away? Haha. You, as the master of Southern Ice Hell, fear that I'll run away? Luo Feng gazed at it. Who in Ice Hell doesn't know you're good at escaping? Skywolf stared at Luo Feng with its blue eyes. Luo Feng shook his head. I'm indeed good at escaping, but you're an invincible emperor. I don't have any other ideas if you're not on board with this one unless you can offer me one. Skywolf sat there, pondering for a long time. He couldn't think of anything else. He couldn't come up with anything that could gain the trust of this cunning but cautious human. I'll leave if you can't make a decision, Luo Feng said, shaking his head and smiling. What's the point of having the token if you can never get out of Ice Hell? Wait. Skywolf gazed at Luo Feng with hesitation, then shouted, Fine, I'll give you the token, but you must give me the access, and if it's still fake, I swear I'll have all the creatures in Ice Hell hunt you down. Rest assured, Luo Feng said with a smile. Have some faith in humans' reputation. It's foolish to trust one's enemies, Skywolf growled and threw Luo Feng the token. So, you do know it's a foolish thing to do, said Luo Feng. Luo Feng caught the token with his hands. The hexagonal tablet was heavy, and he could feel its extraordinary nature just by holding it. He was excited and thought to himself, I can trade it for another token, perhaps the one of special inheritance. This token is far superior to the inheritance of Demon Note Deified General, and maybe I can get an incredible reward. The access is granted, Luo Feng said to Skywolf. Yes, Master, the female servant said with respect and connected to the virtual universe with her mind. Luo Feng looked at her in silence, then connected to the virtual universe. Virtual universe, the peak of Thunder Island, inside the palace of the Primal Chaos City leader. Luo Feng went to see the Primal Chaos City leader right after he read the information of the Ancestral God School and the token online. The interior of the palace permeated an air of chaos. Teacher, Luo Feng greeted with veneration. The airflow conveyed the voice of the Primal Chaos City leader. What happened? It's about the Beast God token, Luo Feng said. A figure covered with a golden cape walked out. The Primal Chaos City leader looked serene, though there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. He was a bit irritated by how Luo Feng diverted his attention, but he had to admit that Luo Feng was indeed lucky. Luo Feng once fought Haiti Emperor as Blade River Emperor in the Outer Domain battlefield, which was a piece of widely spread news, and the Primal Chaos City leader had known about it all along. Although Luo Feng turned off the synchronized transmittal of the virtual universe, lots of powerful ones among the human race had videotaped the battle. The Primal Chaos City leader was surprised that Luo Feng had fought Haiti Emperor as a sector lord in the first place, and then he noticed that the black balls were a series of treasures. Like the invaluable, there were different levels of treasures. Treasures could be rated by different functions. Offensive treasures were not as precious as defensive ones, which were inferior to ceiling ones. And different treasures came with different powers. Series of treasures were definitely top tier. The 7 blades owned by 7 Blade Emperor were a series of treasures. How did my student obtain the token right after he got the series? The Primal Chaos City leader asked, startled. The token was certainly as valuable as a series of treasures. The token stood for the chance to be in the Ancestral God School. Allow me to elaborate, Luo Feng answered. Please do, the Primal Chaos City leader said. I went to Black Flower Secret Region this time. Luo Feng started to tell his stories without revealing his real intention, which was to find the black metal. I didn't panic after being captured in Ice Hell, as my core is outside. I treat it as the practice field. Although the 5 invincible emperors are almighty, I have some chances. The invincible emperors only have a few treasures, and defending treasures are scarce. I plan to train myself in Ice Hell, and once I've completed the 3rd chapter of Nanshan 7 move, I can exercise the 2nd form of Sho Wu Wing, which can disturb space. By then, even Universe Knights won't be able to seal me, not to mention the invincible emperors in Ice Hell. Being the fastest one makes me undefeatable, Luo Feng went on. I'm almost as powerful as them now. When I complete the 3rd chapter and become stronger, I'll have no problem suppressing and severely injuring them. I bought a considerable number of treasures before, and I'll give the purple clock to one of the invincible emperors I might defeat and control in the future. As long as I have the defending treasure and an invincible emperor servant, I'm confident that I can defeat them one by one. This was my original plan, which was to train myself and defeat them one by one. The Primal Chaos City leader nodded. Luo Fen was, indeed, filled with aspirations, daring to fight invincible emperors as a sector lord. However, the invincible emperors could barely reach the threshold, as they had too few treasures and were rather inferior to the real ones like True Yang Emperor. However, I found this beast god token, Luo Feng said, and he briefly summarized the story of Skywolf. If Skywolf buys my story, I can get the token without having to put up a fight. However, even if it knows more about my intentions, I'll try to get the token in the first place. I can't stand staying in Ice Hell for 10,000 years after seeing the token. I want to get out and go to the land of inheritance. I want to be stronger, Luo Feng added with reverence. I can't get out unless I stay here for another 10,000 years. I need your help, teacher. Teacher. I'll have to give the scanner to Skywolf if I want to get the token. My first plan is to escape after getting the token. Skywolf can't do anything, as I'm proficient in defending myself. The second plan is to let it connect to the virtual universe and send the message, after which the demon race will appear, and so will teacher. Would teacher give some advice? If teacher prefers neither of those options, I can wait here for another 10,000 years. The Primal Chaos City leader looked at Luo Feng and beamed. I can see that your mind is fixated on the land of inheritance, and it will be torturous for you to stay here, he said. Let Skywolf send the message. Although it's an invincible emperor now, it was weak before, and the demon race won't believe everything it says. It's impossible for the demon race to send a universe master. Even if it is a universe master, I can overpower that, said Luo Feng. Get the token first, in case the demon race sends a universe master to protect Skywolf, the Primal Chaos City leader said. The token is indeed valuable. My body is wandering in the universe these days and would slaughter for one of the invaluable. It's worth the effort to get a token. Yes, Luo Feng said. Okay. The Primal Chaos City leader looked at Luo Feng expectantly. He felt that he was indeed lucky, and it would be a waste for him to spend 10,000 years in Ice Hell. If he went to the land of inheritance, he might encounter some other rewards. After all, Luo Feng kept pleasantly surprising him after becoming his student. The only thing that slightly bothered him was Luo Feng's choice to follow both the path of a spirit reader and that of a warrior. Ice Hell, inside Skywolf's palace. Skywolf stared at its female servant anxiously, brimming with hope, as the servant tested the virtual universe. I've been detained here for an infinite amount of time, roared Skywolf. This will decide whether I can get out or now. Skywolf was suddenly aggressive, a rare glimpse of his true nature. It has to connect. It has to. Time was passing by while Skywolf felt like he had been through centuries. The servant opened her eyes. Is it done? Skywolf grumbled. Yes, master, the servant answered respectfully. Someone just responded. Someone responded. Skywolf trembled and felt its blood heating up. He had never been so thrilled after being detained here. Awesome. Awesome. Skywolf howled. The sound spread out from the palace. Skywolf, Luo Feng said. Haha. Human, you are a man of your word. Skywolf said, looking down at Luo Feng. The response was the confirmation of receipt of the message, which would be forwarded to Skywolf's teacher. How could he not be exhilarated to know he was about to get out? Skywolf had been as steady as an iceberg before, whereas now, he was as aroused as a volcano about to burst. Then I'll walk myself out, Luo Feng said, smiling. Haha. Skywolf burst into laughter. Be my guest. The door opened, rumbling. Luo Feng glanced at the door, opened his wings and flew away. Congratulations, master, the servants said as they started to celebrate. Skywolf, however, said, no need to elaborate. Although the Purple Knight can't keep an eye on everything that happens in Ice Hell, we'll be in trouble if he finds out. Be constantly on alert until we actually get out. We'll just wait here and we'll get out in a day or two. Skywolf looked up at the boundless ice world outside. Human, I'll let you keep the token for a while to avoid any trouble. I'll get it back and dedicate it to my race after the Supreme Being arrives. Thinking of this, Skywolf couldn't help but laugh. Under his delicate manipulation, the sound only echoed inside the palace. After Luo Feng left the palace, Jihong Emperor appeared beside him and teleported himself. Deep in the snow of Eastern Ice Hell, inside Luo Feng's habitation, Luo Feng was overjoyed. I've acquired the Beast God Inheritance token, Luo Feng said. I didn't expect Ancestral God School to be so powerful and to own all the 8 Beast Gods. Oh, right, there were different sculptures of Beast Gods on the golden pool of Seven-Blade Emperor. Suddenly, the scene entered his mind of the birth of the Sealed Star and how Life-Falling Emperor had launched a sneak attack against Seven-Blade Emperor. It had been during the attack that Seven-Blade Emperor had pulled out a special golden pool. That might have something to do with Ancestral God School, thought Luo Feng. It seems that Seven-Blade Emperor also got the special inheritance. Luo Feng was filled with suspense. I'll go to the land of inheritance and see how it is. Skywolf. I'll need to thank you, this time. Luo Feng looked up and smiled. I'm waiting for the supreme being of your race. Let's see whether it will be my teacher Primal Chaos City leader's rival. The demon race did set up lots of intelligence networks in the virtual universe of the humans. However, ordinary Undying were not allowed to access it, and even Emperor-level Undying were not allowed unless under special circumstances, as using the network was extremely dangerous. Although there was a plethora of delicate methods to conceal their identities, supervision was everything in the virtual universe. Thus, even a tiny shred of a clue might expose the entire network, which was costly. Cybo WA is still alive. Inside the territory of the demon race was a prosperous planet where lots of young demon races were living. However, on the planet lived a powerful Universe Knight. Cybo WA became my 3rd student when I had just been made a Universe Knight, he said. I haven't heard from him for God knows how long. I can't believe he's still alive. A merely 2-meter-long Skywolf with blue feathers was joyful inside a peaceful palace. And there's more. It became an invincible emperor without any resources or help in Ice Hell. Haha. I expected Cybo WA to become a Universe Knight before, and I was right all the time. If it could have stayed in the clan and had been provided with the proper resources, he could have become a Universe Knight long ago. The seemingly ordinary Skywolf was walking around. Teacher, did you decide to come out? A 10-kilometer-long Skywolf appeared and shrunk to 2 meters. The Emperor-level Skywolf was another student of the Universe Knight, and it was the owner of the planet. I still have some things to deal with. The blue Skywolf howled and vanished. I'll come back in a few days. Yes, teacher. Deep inside the territory of the demon race floated a palace among the stars. It was surrounded by blazing fires of rainbow color. Each ball of flame was as large as a star. The scene could not be seen unless one was within close proximity of the palace's location. Apparently, the space and time around the palace were both twisted and independent of the outside universe. The palace had the shape of a ball of flame, and it was silent inside. On the enormous square in front of the palace appeared a blurry figure, which condensed into a 10-kilometer-long blue Skywolf. Leader, the Universe Knight groveled on the ground and greeted. The eye-shaped sculpture on the palace blinked and a rumbling voice came out. What's the matter? Leader, the Skywolf said with veneration. I just received news of my student, one who became my student when I was first made a Universe Knight. I valued it the most until it disappeared a short while after becoming my student. His name is Cybo WA. The rumbling voice continued. I know of him. His name was on the list of turning back time rescue. I tried to do that and save it, but I failed. I thought it was mentally controlled by some other powerful ones. Although Cybo WA had not been as powerful when it went missing as it was now, it had been qualified to be resurrected due to its potential. Unfortunately, it couldn't be successfully revived and was thus forgotten. I received its message, the Skywolf said. It was in Ice Hell of the Black Flower secret region, and it has been detained there for an eternity. Ice Hell of the Purple Knight and Blue Knight? Yes, leader. The Skywolf continued, it became an invincible emperor without any resources or instructions. An invincible emperor? The sound was mixed with surprise. I wouldn't dare lie, the Skywolf answered. Leader, I want to go and rescue my student. However, I'm not sure whether I'm powerful enough to do that with the Purple Knight and the Blue Knight guarding Ice Hell, especially with the Purple Knight present, who was one of the deified generals of Ancestral God School. That's why I want to ask Skyflower Knight to help. But I'm afraid that he won't be willing to do so. Hence, I came here to notify you first. Skyflower Knight was the second most powerful creature of the Skywolf clan. Although he was only a Limit Universe Knight, he was as powerful as an ordinary Universe Master. He was definitely an overlord of the universe. And the most powerful one was the Master of Skywolf, who was the owner of this palace. If Skyflower is willing to show up, together with the deterrence of our race, the two knights in Ice Hell won't dare reject us, the Skywolf said. Skyflower is in a dangerous place, and I can't reach him, spoke the rumbling sound. Even I have no idea when he will come back to the original universe. Now that it is an invincible emperor, I'll go myself. Leader, you'll go by yourself, the Skywolf said with gratefulness. Cybo WA will be filled with honor and gratitude if it knows. I haven't seen the Purple Knight for a long time. All of a sudden, the balls of flames flew toward the palace, shrinking to small tongues of flames that merged into sculptures of flames within the palace, making the aura in the palace all the more vigorous. This is one of the invaluable, the Skywolf said as he admired what he had just seen. This palace was one of the invaluable possessed by the Skywolf clan. The Master of Skywolf had obtained it when the universe first came into being. I'll go now. The entire palace vanished. Only the blue Skywolf was still floating among the stars, and he couldn't have been more joyful. Cybo WA, he said, will be safely brought back. Inside the Ice Hell Starband of the Black Flower secret region. A towering palace surrounded by flames appeared out of nowhere, and the second it appeared, it became the core of the entirety Ice Hell, exerting an aggressive and mighty force on it. All the Undying playing in the Ice Hell Starband instantly began shivering out of fright. What's the point of scaring them as Master of Skywolf? A trace of purple light and then blue light flew to the floating palace. They ought to grovel upon my arrival. The rumbling sound came out of the palace, and a figure covered with fire walked out. The figure looked like the manifestation of law of the universe. Tongues of flames surrounded him, and the dark Skywolf was walking at a slow pace. The space and time around him were in his control completely, and he was the owner of the entire Ice Hell Starband. Even the Blue Knight and the Purple Knight had to revere him. He was the greatest being of the Skywolf clan, Master of Skywolf. There is a Skywolf detained in Ice Hell. His voice was rumbling, trembling the entire domain. Let it out. The Purple Knight and the Blue Knight gave each other a look. There was an immense number of demon race creatures, and they hadn't expected that Master of Skywolf would show up for merely an Undying. Please wait a minute, Master of Skywolf, the Blue Knight said and waved his hand. A cylindrical icicle appeared on his palm. Since Master of Skywolf arrived, he needed to carry his treasure to greet him. Ice Hell was one of the sealing treasures, which was scarce and precious. Together with the Blue Knight's talents, its tremendous power could be fully utilized. The Blue Knight's mind entered the Ice Hell and locked onto the Skywolf, kicking it out easily. Get out. The white Skywolf didn't stand straight until rolling among the stars. After looking around, exhilaration filled its eyes. When it saw the purple and blue figures, and the palace engulfed in fire where stood the forceful black Skywolf, it recalled the legend of the Skywolf clan. It couldn't believe its eyes. Leader. Cybo WA groveled with a thrill. The legendary leader of Skywolf clan, the eternal leader, Purple Knight. How powerful is this Skywolf? The black Skywolf looked at the Purple Knight from afar. Although the Purple Knight and Master of Skywolf bore some grudges against each other, the Knight had to suppress his hostility. Master of Skywolf wasn't just any universe master with invaluable treasures. Master of Skywolf, said the Purple Knight, this one is particularly talented, and it is ranked among the top 5 in Ice Hell. If it were equipped with some suitable treasures, it would rival other invincible emperors. Then why did you detain it, knowing its potential? Master of Skywolf kept grumbling. It's my Ice Hell that detained it, the Blue Knight said, clearly irritated. Master of Skywolf looked to the Blue Knight. Rumble. An invisible force assailed the Blue Knight, whose body bounced away and cracked, after which the pieces were assembled. Who allowed you to speak? The voice was muddled with anger. Coldness flashed through his eyes, which terrified the Purple Knight. Master of Skywolf, the Purple Knight screamed. Relax. Because of you, I won't actually hurt him. Master of Skywolf calmed himself down. It was just a small punishment. The Blue Knight flew back to the Purple Knight. He was filled with exasperation, but all he could do was to suppress it. The Purple Knight smiled and said, Master of Skywolf, I've already let your people go. If you want to catch up with me, you can come with me to the Ice Hell Starband, and I can invite some friends. I'll pass. Master of Skywolf glimpsed at the Purple Knight and looked down to Cybo WA. Cybo WA said, Leader, there's a human in Ice Hell, and he has the Beast God token. It didn't dare to tell him that it was the one who had given the human the token, as it was afraid to enrage this supreme being that it had only heard of before. Beast God token? Master of Skywolf looked to the Purple Knight. Let the human out, and I'll take him with me, Master of Skywolf said. It was an excellent deal to get the token with a word, as the tokens were limited resources to erase. Human? The Purple Knight and the Blue Knight exchanged eye contact and realized they were in trouble. The Purple Knight shook his head. There was no human. Don't you dare tell me there's not, the voice blasted, trembling its surroundings. The space was twisted like waves. Of course, you know that there's a human inside. No, there's not, the Purple Knight said and kept shaking his head. The two knights didn't have the guts to hand in the human. They had already contacted Mountain Sitting Guest and confirmed that the human was a student highly valued by him. Everyone knew how mighty Mountain Sitting Guest was. Even Master of Skywolf was nothing compared to him. They might manage to survive if they wronged Master of Skywolf. However, even the Ancestral God School couldn't protect them if they wronged Mountain Sitting Guest. There's no human, agreed the Blue Knight, shaking his head, too. The little one must have misremembered it. There was a human before, but he died a long time ago. Master of Skywolf looked at the Purple Knight and the Blue Knight in shock. He could not believe they were unwilling to give him the human. Cybo WA, standing to the side, was also looking at its leader and waiting for his hint. If he was to give up, it would say the similar thing as the two knights. Otherwise, it would tell a different story. Interesting, Master of Skywolf said. Who is this human? He doesn't sound like a nobody. Master of Skywolf stood in front of the towering palace and overlooked the knights. Did a supreme being of the human race make a pact with you both so that you two would rather defy me? If it's something good to humans, I'll surely sabotage it. Give me the human. Master of Skywolf glared at them. Or I'll get him myself. Leader, they were lying. I just saw the human. Cybo WA shouted. Did you hear me? Master of Skywolf looked down at the knights. Master of Skywolf, the Purple Knight said with fury. Are you going to fight us because of a human? I'll suggest you back off, the Blue Knight said. They were already secretly notifying Mountain Sitting Guest, who had unbelievable skills, to share the news. However, Mountain Sitting Guest only responded, give him the human and medal. Don't tell him my relationship with this human. Give me the human, demanded Master of Skywolf. No matter who's behind him, I won't be afraid. Even if he's the founder of Gigantic Axe. The Purple Knight and the Blue Knight gave each other a look. They were pondering why Mountain Sitting Guest would tell them to stand aside and not expose the relationship. Master of Skywolf would certainly go away if he heard the name Mountain Sitting Guest. But what was the point of this if Mountain Sitting Guest said so? Okay. The Purple Knight nodded. We'll let him go. Deep in the snow of Eastern Ice Hell, Luo Feng sat in the living room and waiting for the Primal Chaos City leader. Rumble. He suddenly felt the entire sealing force squeezing him. Space cracked at the front. He was squeezed out without even putting up a fight. Luo Feng opened his wings and floated among the stars. It must be my teacher, Luo Feng thought. But he was startled by what he saw. The Purple Knight and the Blue Knight were standing afar, and on the other side floated a gigantic palace surrounded by flames. The power that emanated from it was colossal and surpassed that of the sky-swallowing palace which Luo Feng had seen before. The owner, a black Skywolf, petrified Luo Feng, and next to him stood a subservient white Skywolf. It's the Skywolf of Ice Hell, Luo Feng thought to himself. Human, Cybo WA said, looking down at Luo Feng smugly. The token was only kept by you temporarily. And now, the token and your life will both be gone. Master of Skywolf looked down at Luo Feng. You seem to have a strong background, the master said. Unfortunately, you're dying today and will not be resurrected. Where is my teacher? He should have arrived a long time ago. Die. Master of Skywolf said nonchalantly. All forms of sound went off and spread to all the creatures detained in Ice Hell. Luo Feng and Cybo WA heard it, too, and so did the two knights and Master of Skywolf. Among the Ice Hell starband, a blurry river of sky that was several light years long appeared and covered the entire starband. It looked infinitely long, as if it were opening an entrance to another universe. On the river floated various kinds of treasures, each of whose force permeated the space. "It's Thousand Treasure River," cried the Purple Knight, dazed. "Thousand Treasure River," the Blue Knight said and looked to Master of Skywolf, gloating. Master of Skywolf was bewildered. He roared, standing in front of the palace with his hoofs. "Primal Chaos City leader, why don't you show yourself, since you're here?" The fire around him soared with spread everywhere, but it was extinguished by the force from the river. The palace started to oscillate as if it would topple at any minute. This video will end here.